Now, okay.
Okay, good.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank first of all Fundación Telefónica for this great collaboration that we've been having for over 10 years with Segovia, and we're also adding the Seville to the Hay Festival. Of course, I would like to thank the publisher house, Penguin House, from the Mondadori Group, for all our achievements up until now. And very quickly, I would like to also thank the audience for being with us today. It's always wonderful to have you with us. I would like to highlight the fact that Hay Festival Seville has been created with a central topic, which is culture or literature, as a transformative element of a city, of the image of a city, and also as a type of social transformation. In this sense, this forum held in Seville, which is, as some of the media representatives have said, the youngest in the Hay Festival family, is also based on the word cities, and we couldn't have invited anybody more fit for this than James Ellroy. All his novels are about LA, his hometown. I would like to recommend that you buy his books that he will be signing after this conversation, after this event. And probably you all remember him by the LA series with the Black Dahlia, the LA Confidential, White Jazz, and The Big Nowhere. These are all masterpieces that are really addictive, and we're here today to talk about a different novel of the famous ex-police agent Freddy Otash. And without further ado, I will leave you now with Berna González Harbor. She is a writer, she's a journalist, and she works also with El País newspaper. And I am very interested in learning how she is going to interview Mr. Ellroy here today. Thank you, James, for being here today. Thank you for the time that you have devoted to the incredible amount of interviews that you have given in Madrid and in Seville. And also thank you for the time that you have devoted to each of the journalists that you accepted an interview with. So thank you again. Thank you, everyone. James?
Yeah! I put a spell on you. You ain't nobody's audience but mine. Good evening, peepers, prowlers, pederasts, pedants, panty sniffers, punks, and pimps. I'm James Ellroy, the death dog with the hog log, the foul owl with the death growl, and the slick trick with the donkey dick. I am the author of 24 books, masterpieces all. They precede all my future masterpieces. These books will leave you reamed, steamed, and dry cleaned, tied, dyed, and swept to the side, screwed, blued, tattooed, and bafangooled. These are books for the whole fucking family. If the name of your family is the Manson family, if each and every one of you buy 1,000 copies of my new book, The Enchanters, tonight, on sale here, you will be able to have unlimited sex with each and every person on this earth that you desire every night for the rest of your lives. And that's no shit. If each and every one of you buy 2,000 copies of my books tonight, you will be able to have unlimited sex with each and every person on this earth that you desire every night for the rest of your lives and still get into heaven as the result of a special dispensation signed by me, the Reverend Elroy. If you buy 3,000 copies of The Enchanters tonight, you get the sex, you get into heaven. And for the first time in history, Madrid, Spain will rule the world. You heard it here first, off the record, on the QT, and very hush, hush. Yeah! T.S. Eliot wrote, "If you came this way, starting from anywhere, at any time and in any season, it would always be the same. You would have to put off sense and notion. You are not here to instruct yourself or to inform curiosity or to carry report. You are here to kneel where prayer has been proven valid." And for me, James Elroy, the death dog of American literature, what better place to bow my head in prayer than in a great forum, adjunct to the great Hay Festival, wherein books are venerated above all else. Berna and I will take questions at the end of our dialogue. Each and every one of you honor us by being here tonight. Thank you. God bless you.
Buenas tardes. Bienvenidos.
Good afternoon and welcome you all. For just an instant, I thought that I was going to lose my job in this dialogue, but it was really wonderful to have the opportunity of listening to you. And thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for your words. Thank you, Espacio Fundación Telefónica and the Hay Festival. And also thank you, the audience, and who are here and those who are watching this in streaming, or those who will be watching this later on. You know that this always generates a lot of audience, even after the event itself. So welcome you all. And we have here the honor of having James Elroy. He is the author. I know that if you're here, you know his books very well. Many of them have been already mentioned, like that the series of Los Angeles. But I would like to talk about his new book, The Enchanters, which is what we are introducing here today. And I would like to talk about this book, knowing that it is a pleasure to read this book, but it is also a source of joy to have the opportunity of listening to him. Here we're going to enjoy his presence. We can have the opportunity of reading this book later on at home, but here we have the chance of having him answering questions and having this chat. James Elroy is a very consistent author. Throughout his career, his novels are fast. They are seamless, where there's no extra fat at all. You can see all these sportswomen, sportsmen that are looking for the 0% of extra fat when they want to perform to their best. And in James Ellroy's books, everything is useful. There's nothing that could go to waste in his literature. Now we go back to the 60s. We are on a very special date. If I'm not mistaken, it's the 4th of August of 1962 when Marilyn Monroe died. We are in LA. We are in that context where you have this private detective, Freddie Otage, whom we've met before in a previous novel. He has been a cop. He's very well known in this extortion environment, the investigations in the lower areas of the city, and he will have to go and dive into the investigation of Marilyn Monroe's death, but not only her death, but she will also have to dive into the Hollywood of the big movies from the Fox studios. I would like him to tell us about this environment. He will tell us in this book about this Hollywood of the 1960s, of the movie stars, of Kennedy as the president and Kennedy as the Attorney General. I would like him to tell us why he wrote his book and what is he offering in his book.
Why?
I am offering you a complete social history of Los Angeles, my smog-bound fatherland, in 1962. Marilyn Monroe's death is strictly incidental. I consider her to have been an incidental human being, stupid, shallow, usurious, pretentious, greedy, shallow as a tortilla. Now, do you want to catch up and translate this? And I'll continue a little bit. I'll kick it back to you.
No se preocupe, ellos están recibiendo la traducción.
Don't worry, we are listening to the translation and translating simultaneously, so don't worry about this.
She wasn't murdered, Marilyn Monroe. It was a common drug OD. She had been taking barbiturate sleeping pills and quaffing a lot of booze for a lot of years, and her heart gave out on her one night. She was playing, or played on a very few occasions, Pour the Pork with President John F. Kennedy. It was hardly a love affair. But the Kennedys don't want word getting out that Jack Kennedy, the phony baloney, purported Catholic family man, was cheating on his lovely wife, Jackie. Therein lies a story of Hollywood in duress, a story of 20th Century Fox, the great film studio, about to go belly up because Cleopatra, the gigantic biblical epic being filmed at 20th Century Fox, is about to bankrupt the studio. That is the story. That's where we are. To tell you anything more will spoil the many, many surprises in this book here.
El gran personaje.
The main character is Freddie Otage. The main character of this novel. He's a character that, as we said, he used to be a cop. He is a detective now. He's also he bribes people, and he's in everything that it lies under the glamour of LA. And I would like you to introduce this character. What was your experience with him, and why you have picked him up as the main character and the narrator of your book?
Freddie Otash was a tainted ex-LAPD goon squad cop, a defrocked private eye. He's a dope fiend and a freelance extortionist. He is hired to get the goods on Jack Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe playing hide the salami. That kind of accusation could ruin a president's career. It was a less permissive time, and in many ways a better time than we're living through now, where everything is on the 24-hour internet news feed and the world is going crazy with tattle. This is a Private Eye novel, and you've all seen Private Eye movies and read Private Eye novels. Here's the narrative gist. Private eyes go around talking to suspects, sometimes beating up on them, asking them questions which lead to other witnesses and other witnesses and other witnesses, and finally form a concluding thesis as to who the guilty parties are. That's your way into the book. You pick up this book, you're going to know what the dramatic stakes are right at the gate. And Freddie Otash, a very corrupt, but underneath it all, a very tender and a very religious man. He was a Lebanese Maronite Catholic. He is your moral guide through the sewer that was LA in 1962.
Usted le conoció.
You met him personally.
Yeah, I met him and I didn't like him. He lays claim to be the biggest sack of shit in LA history, and given that the town is LA, that's really saying something. So I've rewritten his life from the ground up and made him sensitive, a champion of the cause of women, a great voyeur with a disordered heart and a disordered moral core, who has to throw himself into the lives of people in violent duress in order to restore moral order to his own life.
¿Y en qué circunstancias?
In which circumstances did you get to meet him? Would you like to share that with us?
People had told me about Freddie Otash. I got his phone number. I called him up. I asked him if he wanted to be the hero of my earlier novel, American Tabloid, and I told him I'd pay him some money. He was living in Miami, Florida. I flew down to meet him. I disliked him immediately, but that's okay because it's fiction and I can do whatever I want. I realized after a certain point he's going to take my money, he's going to cheat me, and then he died of a heart attack, and I could have used him in American Tabloid for free. But I had found a character, a fictional one, that I liked a whole lot more.
Bueno, eso ha sido un dato interesante.
That was an interesting detail.
¿Y por qué el
Why did you choose this specific episode with Marilyn Monroe, her death? Why did you pick this as the starting point of the novel?
It's 1962. I wanted to write about 1962. There were only 3 big violent events to rock 1962 LA. And this was the first one, August 4th, in chronological order. And the second two, which I won't divulge now, will be the next two books that I write. So I'll see you for the next book in 2 years, and in 4 years for the third book.
Muy bien. ¿Has leído?
Have you read a lot about Marilyn? I've read Blonde, for instance, from Joyce Carol Oates. And have you read her biography, or how did you work on this character?
I have not read Joyce Carol Oates' novel Blonde. I read half of Anthony Summers's, he's a British journalist, book called Goddess. It's scrupulously factual, and I saw that the circumstances of her death were entirely banal. It was a drug and alcohol overdose. People, if you only believe one thing, trust me on this one, it's not a murder. The Kennedys didn't have her bumped off. She probably only played Bury the Brisket with Jack Kennedy on 6 occasions over the few years that they knew each other. And besides, Jack Kennedy was a 2-minute man to begin with. Really. That's Jack.
Jack, en un momento dado,
At a given time, Marilyn Monroe says that his penis is like a little nut. And I'm sorry about this, but this is an image that I have stuck in my mind. You called him a 2-minute man, right? That's how you call him, Jack.
It's not that great soul hit by Billy Ward and the Dominoes from 1955, 60-Minute Man. If you're in need of lovin', go up and call old Dan. He'll rock 'em, roll 'em all night long. He's a 60-minute man. No. Billy Ward and the Dominoes were inimical to President John F. Kennedy.
y vamos a ver cómo trabaja.
Let's see how you work. I'm going to make it difficult for the translators. You say in one sentence, when Freddie Otage is investigating that he is at the crime scene, he carries comb for gathering fibers, ninidrine to detect blood spots, and an acid phosphatase for detecting cum. Forgive me, the interpreters. How do you follow up on the means that the police in the 1960s used to investigate?
I make it up. It's fiction. I invent forensic procedures. Let me tell you what slows down crime novels more than anything else is when the writer does a great deal of research and has to explain what the forensic procedures are and how they're enacted. When you just say, I smeared some semen across a slide and prepared a 2-lens microscope and looked for polymorphonuclear leukocytes through the 2 lens pieces, searching for venereal disease. Is it real? No. It's all bullshit. I made it up. But I can make you believe it because I possess a mastery of forensic verisimilitude. I love this detailed stuff so much that I'm very good at inventing it. Even though I'm not a scientist and never finished high school.
Pero yo he leído.
But I have read that you do prepare your novels very well, that you sort of make a Bible with documents before you write your novel. How do you prepare for them?
I wrote a 425-page outline for this book. I described all the action. By the way, I don't have a computer. I don't have a cell phone. I've never joined the digital age. I don't have an app. I have a landline telephone, and I write by hand. I have a woman retired from the FBI, lives in the south of France, who types my books for me. And I follow the outline. It's already been gone over by Andrew Wiley, my esteemed literary agent, and Edward Kastenmeier, my esteemed editor at Alfred A. Knopf in America. And we make notes in the margins, and then I write the book.
Y esa Biblia, ese
That sort of Bible, that how did you call that? Bible? That outline that is 450 pages long, how do you write this? By imagination or by documenting yourself? How much is there of documentation and how much is your own imagination?
It's 85% my imagination, 15% established fact. Before I write the outline, I put together about 200 pages of notes on the character, on the police procedures, on the milieu. For instance, there was the suicide of an actress named Carol Landis in real life in July of 1948. I did some reading up on that and took 30 pages of notes. Then I start putting everything together. Then I write the outline. Then I write the book. This process that I am describing to you takes a full calendar year.
Entendido. Usted escribe
I understand. You talk about the 1960s. This novel is based on 1962. When you were about 20-something, were you in your 20s?
14.
Yeah.
¿Cuál es?
So, what's your recollection? How much of recollection of that ambience of the 1960s, how much of that is there in your books?
I could do some high-flying shit right now and talk about the topography of LA, or I can tell you the truth, which was I was just lost in my dipshit kid imagination, peeping rich girls from Hancock Park, peeping, looking in windows, walking around, reading popular novels, watching crime TV shows, going to crime movies, shoplifting books, shoplifting food out of markets, and beginning to experiment with drugs and alcohol. That's what I was doing. My memory is suspect, and I won't lie to you here.
¿Y Kennedy cómo recuerda?
So, how do you remember President Kennedy?
I remember him as this guy with an odd accent and a great head of hair. And I'd already figured out that I was going to go bald because I tried to get a flat top haircut when I was 14 years old. And Tony, this old Italian barber that I went to see, said, "Kid, I hate to tell you, but you're going to be bald by the time you're 40, and your hair is too thin already." I couldn't get a flat top haircut and look cool like John F. Kennedy. But he had a cool voice. He said things like, "These stories of past courage can teach, and they can offer hope, and they can provide inspiration. but they cannot provide courage itself. For this, each man must look into his own soul. And all this talk about a Kennedy dynasty is a bunch of fucking bullshit. And I say that. And so does my father, Joseph P. Kennedy Sr., and my brother Bobby, and my brother Teddy, and my son John. Now, come on, that's a pretty good John F. Kennedy imitation. You can clap if you want. Yeah!
¿Cree que
Do you think that now that the documents about Kennedy's assassination will be disclosed, we will find anything interesting? This gesture is really belongs to in your novels as well. Is there anything that you will be inspired by?
First of all, I wrote my book about the Kennedy assassination some years ago, so I'm over it. And I think Lee Harvey Oswald, for what it's worth, acted alone. You're going to find a lot of boring, heavily redacted, in black ink, thus unreadable, documents with a lot of blacked out names, and it's not going to mean much of anything.
me gustaría volver a hablar de lo
I would like to go back to the cinema, the LA universe, about cinema with Liz Taylor shooting Cleopatra in Rome. All these ambience that is also incorporated into your novel. I really loved the photography you make of this world of illusions in Hollywood and the world of the reality of the actors who were spying on each other, who, for instance, Liz Taylor's husband was making fun of her because there were some news about his being with his new lover in Rome. So that Hollywood is dead now?
Is that Hollywood dead now? It is for me because I live in the past. Here's what flipped my switch. When I was 11 years old, out of nowhere, and I knew my father was a Hollywood bottom feeder in the late 1940s, around the time that I was born. So one day my father said to me, "Hey kid, I fucked Rita Hayworth." And I said, "Fuck you, Dad, you did not fuck Rita Hayworth. You lie like the rug that you are." 10 years after his death in 1975, a man looked me up who was writing a biography of Rita Hayworth, and my father was her business manager, and went back with the Hayworth family. Rita Hayworth was half Mexican and half Anglo, and her father was a man named Eduardo Cancino, and an altogether bad guy. My father at that time, who was Spanish fluent, was a croupier at Agua Caliente racetrack in Tijuana, Mexico, and he was a watchdog of Rita Hayworth, later became her business manager. Did they ever have sexual congress? I would like to believe that they did, but my father was a notorious bullshit artist. So I tend to err on that side.
y usted conoce
Did you get to meet all these stars that you mention in your novel? Like Rita Hayworth or Judy Garland, Rock Hudson, all those who appear in your book. Did you get to know that world, those stars?
I never met them. I caddied for a bunch of movie stars when I worked at Bel Air Country Club as a kid. I smoked dope with the country singer Glenn Campbell half a dozen times out on the golf course. You know, the guy who sang Gentle on My Mind and Rhinestone Cowboy. He hated all the caddies, but he seemed to like me very much. But I haven't met these people. I've met Freddie Otash, and I have met Daryl Gates, a wonderful guy, a wonderful chief of the Los Angeles Police Department from the late 70s up to the early 90s, and he's a big character in this book. The only two people I've met in person.
Okay. Hay una fotografía aquí.
There's a picture here. This is why I asked for this book to be brought. The Losers. It's a picture that you will see very small now, but you have included this picture from April 1962, and I would like to know why you have included this establishment where a lot of the movie takes place. What does it represent to you? Do you know it?
Well, I was only 14 years old in 62, and you had to be 21 to get in. I was never inside the Losers Club, but it had a 5 or 6 year run there in West Hollywood, Beverly and La Cienega, for those of you who know LA, and they had a loser of the week. And Eddie Fisher, who was married to Elizabeth Taylor, who was playing Hide the Salami with Richard Burton at Cinecittà Studios in Rome during the shooting of Cleopatra, was loser of the week for several weeks. Richard Nixon ran for governor of California later in the year. He was loser of the week for several weeks. Losers in the early 1960s were considered cool. If you were a loser, it meant that you were a cool, grungy outsider that women found irresistible. Hence the title, The Losers Club. And the Losers Club will be back in my next 2 books. Man, I wish I could go back and hang out at the Losers Club. And I know that you all wish the same thing. I'm very, very sorry that it isn't 1962, but when we pass off this earth and we're all hobnobbing together, recalling our great times at the Telefonica Foundation and at the various hay festivals, on the other side, we'll recall the Losers Club and we'll get access to it and we'll be able to know the real inside story.
Do you think that, in a certain way, that a world of extortion, of espionage, of husbands, of wives that you describe in your novel, do you think that this still exists? The Freddie Otash world is still alive?
No, because no-fault divorce came into California law in 1970. So you couldn't claim adultery, no cheating wives, no cheating husbands. You're not going to get a good divorce settlement. Here's all you needed from I've been divorced in California twice. It's where I go, California, when women divorce me and I need to get into rehab. That's the only times I go back to California. All you have to say to get divorced in California is, I want out. And you'll get out. That's it. Freddie had no more work in divorce courts, tailing around cheating wives and husbands from 1970 on up.
Okay. Es muy interesante el inicio.
It's very interesting the way the novel starts. I'm not going to tell it. I'm not going to say it out loud, but the 2-3 first pages date back from the 90s, I think around 1990, and you are giving Freddie Otasha context, and then suddenly you go back to the 1960s. Let's move on. You, in Barcelona, you received the Carvalho Award from Barcelona Noir, and you are familiar with Spain. You have been to the country several times. You've been in Seville, you've been in Madrid, you have given several talks. What's your relationship with Spain, and how do you feel treated here?
I've been famously, beautifully, warmly, generously treated in Spain. Spain is easily my favorite European country. Madrid is my favorite city in Europe. The people here could not be more decorous, more generous, more civil, more courteous, more gracious. I mean, the Spanish people are great people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Gracias. Y quiero preguntar.
I would also like to ask you, of you as a reader, I think that you only read crime novels. What is your favorite genre?
I've read in my lifetime more or less only crime novels. Every time I try to pick up some classic of world literature or modern contemporary literature, I go, shit, why am I reading this fucking book? And I toss it across the room. I try reading Philip Roth or Saul Bellow or Gabriel Garcia Marquez or Jonathan Franzen. I just say, what is this shit? And I just toss it across the room. I love American popular fiction.
¿Por qué?
It is
Why is that?
about the chase. It is about the pulp sensibility, and it is at its core about the holy, the profane, the highly ambiguous, always passionate conjunction of men and women. And my books are at their core romances.
Usted también.
You also, I suppose that you do believe in evil, and evil is a very important driver for your literature, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
¿Puede elaborar? Hay más.
Could you elaborate on this? Would you say that there is more evil in human beings than good things?
No, I think that the world is a fallen place. I believe in original sin. I believe in the risen God. I believe in the Holy Trinity. I believe that all love, all human love, derives from Jesus Christ. So I'm a Christian, and I believe in evil. And I believe that the chief manifestation of evil in today's world is the digital world. So when you get out of here, throw your cell phone in the trash can, go home, get a gun, and shoot your computer through the heart, through its evil digital heart. I don't have a computer. I don't use a computer. I got a landline telephone. Yeah. I'm putting my money where my mouth is in this critique of the satanic digital age.
¿Por qué?
Why?
Why is that?
In its guise of convenience, it has destroyed civility. It has turned entire generations of younger people into uncivil, brusque, rude, low attention span, estupido shithead kids. And we have to rescue future generations from this evil. I, the Reverend Elroy, have spoken. Yeah!
Voy a ir terminando por...
I'm going to be wrapping this up so I can open the floor for a Q&A. I would like to clarify that James Elroy doesn't like talking about current events. I don't know if you would like to elaborate on this, but I would, before I move on to the questions from the audience, I would like to know how you define your own literature. What is your literary project in your life, you would say?
What are my upcoming projects?
No, su proyecto...
No, your literary project, as you would define it in your life. How do you define your own literature?
Dashiell Hammett and I form the alpha and the omega of the American hard-boiled novel. I am greater than Hammett. He only wrote 5 books. I've written 24. He went down behind his own moral weakness, Marxism, his twisted relationship with the writer Lillian Hellman, and lots of booze. Not me. Not me. Thus, he was my first and greatest teacher. He is the father of the American hard-boiled novel, and his first novel, Red Harvest, was published in 1929, and this book is published in Spain almost 100 years later in 2025. And I got a lot of books left in me. I'm not checking out of here anytime soon. Yeah!
Bueno, les invitamos a hacer alguna pregunta.
We invite you to ask questions if you have any.
Man over here.
Aquí y aquí también.
Hello, well, it's a pleasure to hear you speak the same way that you speak in your books, and I have to confess that I first heard of you back in 1997 with a movie adaptation of your film that I've heard you saying that it stinks.
Yeah, it's LA Confidential. It's a turkey.
Okay. Yeah. That it won many awards, but it didn't make much money.
Right.
So maybe it's not a subject that you'd like to speak about, but I have a curiosity of what do you think is a good adaptation from a book in your area, in crime, that you say, okay, I read this book and this adaptation is good?
In my short list of great crime movies is a novel into a film, and it's a negligible novel by Ed McBain called King's Ransom. It became the great Akira Kurosawa's novel High and Low. It's about a botched kidnapping. It's a 1963 movie filmed on location in Yokohama, Japan. I can't think of a greater crime motion picture than this one.
Igual nos quiere decir, por qué no le gustó la...
Maybe you would like to share with us why you didn't like the adaptation of LA Confidential.
What about LA Confidential?
Why you didn't like it?
It makes no narrative sense. I'm the guy that wrote the book. It's full of plot holes. Russell Crowe and Guy Pearce, the 2 male leads, are children. They are not hard-boiled, shit-kicking LA cops of the 1950s. It's a cheesy crowd pleaser. I could go on and on. But listen, here's the deal. Money is the gift that no one ever returns. So I wrote the book, and then some people came around and gave me a nice piece of change for work I'd already done writing the book. So it was free money. So anytime someone offers me free money to option one of my books, I take it. Then people the filmmakers can do whatever the hell they want. Chances are they'll never make it. If they do, they'll screw it up past redemption. That's okay. My book remains untouchable.
We can understand.
Also, books are more important than motion pictures. Sir.
I would like to ask Reverend Elroy, and I'm a bit fearful, I hope he doesn't yell at me, but I would like to ask him about his opinion on psychoanalysis and if you have had any experiences with psychoanalysis yourself.
I've never been psychoanalyzed. I've seen a couple of head shrinkers in my lifetime. Yeah.
¿Algo que añadir? Una buena experiencia.
Anything to add? Have you had any good experience with shrimp?
None of your business, Jack. But when we talk, after you get your 1,000 copies of this book signed, I'll flesh it out. And if you buy 2,000 copies of the books, I'll be that much more candid.
Muy bien. Aquí
Very good. I think we have another question from the other side of the room.
So one question, it's a personal question if I may. I was already a big fan of yours, but then My Dark Places came.
Right.
And I wanted to ask, have you come to terms with what happened to your mothers after My Dark Places? How was it to write that book?
My Dark Places is the story of my mother's 1958 unsolved murder and my unsuccessful attempt, partnered up with a brilliant, retired LA Sheriff's homicide detective named Bill Stoner to find the killer. We were never close. It's over. I wrote that book damn near 30 years ago. Conducted the investigation 31 and 32 years ago. It's over.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gracias. Bueno, si no hay más preguntas.
If there are no more questions, I invite you to give him a big round of applause, of course, and also to buy his book and have it signed. Thank you so much, James.
Podrán firmaros el libro en la mesita que hay ahí.